Thanks for joining. Hope you're having a good summer. Today is July 7th, well into our summer season, and I wanted to take the opportunity. I'm really excited. Two things, actually. Number one, we just, Travel Africa 365 has just surpassed 600 subscribers. And that's kind of a milestone for me after 6 weeks. It's pretty good for a low budget operation like us. So I want to say thank you, Asante Sana, Webali, and Medawase to the subscribers who have joined us. And I hope you stay engaged. I hope we're providing great content for you. And I hope we can inspire you to travel to Africa. And I want to thank, by the way, a fellow YouTuber, Miss Josie from Uganda. She actually texted me this morning giving me that news that we surpassed 600. So I appreciate her bringing that to my attention. I wasn't aware. And by the way, if you don't know of her, please look her up. She is a fantastic content provider. She's from Uganda. She gives great content. She is vibrant. She has tons of energy. And if no one can get you excited about Uganda, she can. Okay, so look her up and subscribe to her channel because I've learned a lot about Uganda through her. So thank you, Josie. I appreciate it. The second thing I'm really excited about is I just purchased my tickets to return to Africa in September. Right, so I thought I would take this opportunity to kind of walk you through the process that I follow as I prepare for my next quote-unquote adventure. Right. I just returned from Africa in June. Let's see, it was April of this year. I was probably home a couple weeks when I started planning my next visit. So here it is in July, and I'm ready to go. I just purchased my tickets. I'm going to be traveling to Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, and possibly Rwanda on this trip, and I'm leaving exactly 2 months from today. So, and that's, by the way, almost enough time to get everything done. And I want to stress that when you plan an international trip of any length, the preparation, the research is paramount, right? I like to consider myself, a wanderer, if you will, free spirit, what have you. But when the truth be told is that I put a lot of stock and credence in the planning and preparation phase. I found over the years that the more time I spent up front planning and preparing, the more enjoyable my trip is, right, in the end. So I thought, given that fact, I thought that this would be a great opportunity for me to kind of take you through my process, what I do, how I prepare for my journey, right? So, given that, basically, I'm going to break this down to probably several videos. I think there's just too much content to shove into one video. You'll probably fall asleep if I try to lay it all out at once. So what I'm going to do today is break down the kind of key upfront things that you need to do. So, right, flights, accommodations, all the documentation, the passports, the visa, the COVID requirements, any immunizations, that type of stuff, tours, right? You want to kind of get all that stuff out of the way first, okay? So when it comes to flights, there's a couple things I do. I think back in early May, I really started looking for flights. And at the, basically my itinerary is based on what I can find as far as flights. Do I go to Ghana first? Do I go to Nairobi first? Do I go to Kigali or Kampala or Entebbe in Uganda. All of that really kind of hinged on what kind of flights I could find, right? Because I know I need to go to Ghana, Uganda, and Kenya. And geographically speaking, Kenya, Nairobi is a really good central point, right? From there, it's about an hour and a half flight, 2 hour, yeah, about an hour and a half flight to Uganda and Entebbe, and it's about a 6 hour flight to Accra in Ghana. So these are some considerations I had to incorporate into my decision making process. And for the purposes of this video, I'm going to assume that you have done all of that research and you have decided upon a destination, right? So in May, I started putting my feelers out. I put flight alerts, price alerts to various cities. And so I was able to find, I think, the best flights available to me that kind of fit my overall agenda, right? Knowing where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do when I'm there, all those considerations you have to kind of decide up front. Then get your tickets, right? Once that's done, that's a big check mark because, quite honestly, that's probably going to be the biggest single expense in your entire travel, right? So you want to prepare for that financially as well. I think the second component is accommodations. And you could travel on any kind of a budget when it comes to accommodations. Obviously, there's hotels, there's VRBO, vacation rental by owner, there's couch surfing, there is just a myriad of opportunities and options for you to decide. So that's going to probably be the next largest expense in your overall budget, right? And I have to mention, by the way, I'm really impressed with couch surfing. Couchsurfing is, again, an organization that kind of puts travelers like myself together with people in other countries who are willing to host crazy people like me. It's a really great way to stay in an area with a local, right? That's going to help you, from a expense perspective. Obviously, you want to help them while you're there as well. But I have met some really great people along the way, and that's probably for me the primary benefit of using something like that is I actually get to meet and stay with people local to the region that I'm at. And you can't really put a price on that because you learn so much from engaging with locals. So that's and by the way, this is July 7th. I still haven't figured out all of the accommodations, but I do have my flights in order. So that's really the first thing, right? Everything else kind of hinges on your flight. What time you're getting there, how long you're going to stay, etc. Right? And then I guess the next thing that's really key is to make sure that you have your passport in order, right? Usually, when you book an international flight, they're going to ask you for your passport information anyway. So you need to have a passport when you go to Africa, especially if you're from North America, which I am. You have to have 6 months remaining validity on your passport. In other words, your passport can't expire within 6 months of arrival, right? So you have to make sure you have enough time on your passport before it expires. And secondly, you have to have at least one blank page for visa stamps, right? Entry stamps, exit stamps through customs and immigration. So make sure that that's in place, right? And by the way, just a special note, whatever name information you have on your passport, it has to match identically to what you reserve your flights for. So when you're booking your flight, they'll ask you for first name, middle if you want, and surname, last name. It has to match exactly what's on your passport. If there's an error, you can run into problems. Okay, so make sure you double check your date of birth, and of course your name. The expiry date on your passport has to match. All of that has to match. So please take some time when you're filling out your flight information, right? If you don't, you're going to have some problems. You'll have to go back and talk to the airlines and all that kind of stuff. And God forbid you don't do that and you land in somewhere else. When you get to the immigration officer, that's when your problems really start. Okay, so keep that in mind. After you've confirmed that your passport's in order, right, the next order of business is getting your visa. Every country has its own visa requirements. Okay, so that's going to be individual to where you are going and what you want to do. For me, I could just tell you, I already have a multiple entry visa, good for another, I think, 3 years to Ghana. So I'm set there. But this trip, I'm going to want to go to Uganda and Kenya. Just so happens that Uganda, Kenya, and Rwanda share a visa program. It's called the East African Visa. And the East African Visa is good for those three countries. The nice thing about the East African Visa is that it allows you multiple entries as long as you stay within those three countries, right? So I can fly to Nairobi, hang out in Nairobi, Kenya for a while. Then I can go up to Uganda, hang out there for a while, run down to Rwanda, hang out there for a while, back to Nairobi, etc., right? For as many times in and out as I want to go within the given period, which is 90 days. So when you get an East African visa, you can stay in country, any of those three countries, for a maximum of 90 days. So keep that in mind. So once you get your visa, and go ahead and apply for your visa now. You've got your flights, right? So you're set there. You're starting to do some research on accommodations, but right now that's not as high priority as you're getting your visas. Make sure that you. I'll put the link, by the way, to a variety of visa resources that can provide you those services. Pretty cheap. I think it's probably 100 US. I haven't checked this time, but it's right around 100 US. So that's pretty reasonable. So you've got your flights, passport, and now you've applied for your visas, and allow 3 weeks, 4 weeks max. I've gotten them in as little as 7 days. But again, make sure that you're preparing so you don't run into a crunch, 24 hours before your flight leaves, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. So I'll have two visas, an East African visa and a Ghanaian visa. So I'm set from a visa perspective. The next thing important is immunizations, right? So you want to check, again, I'll put some links to some resources where you can check to see what immunizations are required. Where I go, yellow fever is required. As a matter of fact, I think I have one here. I'll show you. Basically, it's a immunization that you can get. Now, you can't get it through your normal healthcare provider, but you can go to travel companies that specialize in medical immunizations and medicines and things like that for international travel. This is what it looks like. I don't know if you can see it or not. They call it a yellow card for obvious reasons, and it's actually stamped, or not stamped, but it's stapled into my passport, the back of my passport. Now, this particular immunization is good for life. 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when I first started traveling, it was good for 10 years, right? It expired, so I had to go back in and get another shot a year ago. And this particular immunization is good for life now, so I'm set. That is required when you travel to most of the sub-Saharan countries in Africa, Kenya for sure, Uganda, Ghana, right? And I suspect Rwanda. So make sure that you research and the country that you're going to find out if any immunizations are required. Okay. The last thing around immunizations and what have you is COVID, right? COVID has added a new layer of complexity to international travel. I'm sorry to say. I left in January of this year. I went to Africa, and again, I went to Kenya. I went to the countries that I just named, right? Um, every country has a different protocol. Okay, so be aware of what the protocol is for the particular country you're going to. Um, in my case, when I was looking at my flights, I had to decide what's the protocol for Kenya if I decide to fly into Nairobi. They require that you take a test 72 hours prior to departure, right, and have your negative results in your hand before they allow you to board the aircraft. Um, Uganda at the time was 120 hours. They have since changed to 72 hours. Again, 72 hours prior to departure, you have to have taken your test with results in your hand. And then once you get to wherever you're going, if you're going to another country, you have to again prepare and plan to take a test in that country. For example, I went to Kenya. I was there for a while. I had to find a testing center in Nairobi before I can leave for Uganda, right? And then when I wanted to return to Kenya, I had to do the same thing in Uganda. So just be aware of what the COVID requirements are, depending upon where you're headed. Again, if you have any questions or need any help, I'll certainly put some links in the description below. But also too in the comment section, just if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and we'll get back to you. Not a problem. So that is basically, and the last thing I guess I want to touch on is tours. If you are a tourist, you've never been, or you want to do something special, there are plenty of tour companies that have package plans, custom plans for you. So go ahead and start that research now as well, right? So this is where I'm at on my planning right now. I think that if you kind of follow along with us, the next video, I think we'll talk about what gear to bring, right? Your camera, your phone, chargers, medicines, etc. By the way, speaking of medicines, when you if you need a yellow fever, right, immunization, that same company will provide malaria pills, and that's what I take. I take the pill for them. It's not required in the countries that I go to. However, it is a great idea, right? Malaria is nothing to joke about, right? It's serious if you get it, and believe me, there are mosquitoes everywhere, right? So you'll see in a lot of accommodations that they'll have mosquito nets right over the bed. It's there for a reason. A number of my friends have malaria. Once you get it, you have it for life, right? It comes and goes. You don't want to get malaria, so make sure that when you schedule your appointment for your yellow fever, that you also talk about malaria, right? There's a weekly protocol and there's a daily protocol. Talk to your health provider to decide what's best for you. So I think when I go for months at a time, I take the weekly protocol, but when I'm over there just for a couple of weeks, I take the daily protocol. Pretty cheap too. So they'll fill a prescription. You can just pick it up at your preferred pharmacy. So keep that in mind. So we're going to do this. I'm going to take you through the journey that I'm on from this point forward until I leave for the airport on September 6th. Right. So I hope you've enjoyed and learned a little bit. I hope you're looking forward to the next set of um, videos. If you want us to kind of dive in to any specific area or topic, again, leave a comment and we'll cater our content to answer your questions, right? So, thank you again. And by the way, on the horizon, we have Miss Lynette putting some stuff together. We're going to talk about um, foreign currency and how to kind of work that when you're out abroad. I'm hoping to get some information and some content from some new friends that I met just today, as a matter of fact, from Ghana and Tanzania. So I'm looking forward to working with those guys as well. So with that, thank you very much. And again, thank you, Asante Sana, Webali, and Madawase to all the subscribers. Keep it going. Let us know how we can improve. Thank you.